Hello, everyone. My name is Boyd Allen, and I'm a member of the PEI Coalition for the Protection of PEI Lands. The coalition acknowledges that Prince Edward Island is part of the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Furthermore, as non-Indigenous people today, we are inheritors of the treaties signed with the Mi'kmaq by our settler ancestors. At no time did these treaties grant rights of ownership to the settlers. To this day, therefore, in all our conversations, plans, and actions around the protection of PEI lands, the expression "our land" requires us to acknowledge that "our" must be understood as a shared responsibility, not ownership. The Coalition for the Protection of PEI Lands was formed in 2018 by a group of islanders from a diverse range of backgrounds, all with a common concern about our land here on PEI. Our goal continues to be raising awareness about the issues involving land and holding our government to account in addressing them. We must emphasize the fact that this coalition is a citizen volunteer group. All of our activities and written submissions are the result of accumulated volunteer hours. We have no staff, and our limited funds come from donations from interested islanders. Our concerns and opinions are drawn from the experience of our members and public source information. All our public statements and presentations reflect this. When information is shared with the coalition in confidence, that confidence is respected. Today, we are addressing a time-sensitive issue which the coalition feels requires immediate action. This is the current IRAC investigation on Buddhist land holdings in Kings County. Ownership and control of PEI lands have been an issue throughout its history. In more recent times, increased demands for land by industrial agriculture, non-resident and other corporate interests have placed our system under scrutiny. Irving family-related land acquisitions and Buddhist land holdings, for example, have added anger and divisiveness to the issue of who really controls our land. There were two recent investigations undertaken under Section 15 of the Lands Protection Act by the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC, in what appeared to be an effort to address these concerns. One which focused on the purchase of 2,200 acres of farmland by Irving family interests resulted in a divestiture of the land in question, followed by a sudden reversal of this decision a few months later. Government officials cited IRAC as providing the analysis leading to both the divestiture and its removal. The final report generated by this inquiry was never presented to the public. The other investigation concerned about Buddhists' organization acquisitions of land in Kings County was ended without explanation in January of 2018. There was no action forthcoming from this investigation. There were no budget lines corresponding to either of these inquiries in IRAC's published annual reports. In fact, there was no mention of them at all. The same holds true for the province of PEI's annual reports. There is no public record of the terms of reference, the methodology, the conclusions drawn, nor the cost to island taxpayers of these IRAC investigations. In February of 2023, the Coalition for the Protection of PEI Lands requested that the government of PEI launch a public inquiry into land acquisitions and transactions in order to quantify the full acreage owned and or controlled by local, national, and transnational corporations, their beneficial owners, and affiliates. We propose this inquiry be conducted through the terms outlined in the Public Inquiries Act and be independent of both the provincial government and the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission. We accompanied this request with detailed terms of reference we'd hoped would achieve a transparent, thorough investigation. There was no response from government to this request. In June of 2023, the Coalition held a public rally on the steps of the Coles building to present our concerns and remind then Premier King of the request we had made. There was no response to this request either. After several unsuccessful attempts to arrange a meeting with either the Premier or the Minister of Housing, Land and Communities, one eventually was held in January of 2024 between then Minister Rob Lance, departmental officials, and representatives of the coalition. The minister and department officials were adamant at that time they had not been informed of any non-compliance with the LPA. The minister invited the coalition to bring any instance of non-compliance to his attention and stated that the department would act upon them. As was made clear at the onset, the coalition had neither the resources to complete a fulsome investigation nor the budget to retain legal representation. This was why the coalition had requested the provincial government launch a public inquiry. Clearly, this request was not given serious consideration. In February of 2025, then Minister Stephen Myers directed IRAC to initiate an investigation into Buddhist land holdings in Kings County. 2 weeks later, the coalition sent a letter to Minister Myers and IRAC outlining what we thought must be considered in conducting this inquiry. Two key elements within it are: the investigation must provide members of the public with knowledge relevant to the investigation, the opportunity to appear as witnesses, to give testimony, and that they bring with them any documentation relevant to the matter under investigation, and that the rights and protection of persons giving testimony be clearly defined in legal terms. And two, the investigation must include the identity of all beneficial owners of any corporation being investigated as per Lands Protection Act, Section 911 and 2. These communications from the coalition were not acknowledged by either the minister or IRAC. In October of 2025, IRAC, under subpoena from a standing legislative committee, announced there was no report in existence of their 2016-2018 investigation. There was no explanation provided. In October of 2025, Premier Rob Lance requested RCMP and FinTrack to investigate allegations of money laundering and foreign interference in relation to Buddhist organizations. That brings us to today. Here is what we do not know: the conclusions, terms of reference, scope, or budget of the two previous IRAC investigations. The timeline, terms of reference, scope, or budget of IRAC's current investigation. If there is legal protection in place within this inquiry to allow people to bring forward evidence relevant to it. If there is any intention to allow the public to access any element of this investigation. If there is going to be a thorough federal inquiry, when it would be undertaken, what specifically it would be focused on, and whether any element of it would be shared with the public. Here is what needs to happen. We ask you to sign the following petition. The Coalition for the Protection of PEI Lands asks the province immediately launch a public inquiry, as outlined in the Public Inquiries Act, into land acquisitions involving the organizations cited in the current investigation, their beneficial owners and affiliates. This public inquiry must address beneficial ownership as outlined in the Lands Protection Act, Section 9.1, effect of direct and/or direct control. Provide members of the public with knowledge relevant to the investigation. Allow members of the public with knowledge relevant to the investigation to appear as witnesses, to give testimony, and allow them to bring with them any documentation relevant to the matter under investigation, and ensure rights and protections of persons giving testimony be clearly defined in legal terms. Furthermore, the findings of this inquiry must, within limits established in the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act be made public in a timely manner. The Coalition also asks that the Government of PEI order the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission to conclude its current investigation and hand over any documents pertaining to Buddhist land transactions to the public inquiry. Our demand is simple but crucial. The people of this province deserve transparency and accountability about how the land in question was acquired, and with equal importance, who controls it. By signing this petition, you're standing up for the integrity of Prince Edward Island's lands and supporting the call for clear, just, and public-centered land management. We were recently informed that, due to restrictions still in place, a petition composed of online signatures cannot be formally presented to the legislature. Be assured we will find other means to deliver it to the Premier. The Coalition will be hosting a media conference on the 2nd of December at the Murphy Centre at 11 o'clock a.m. to share our concerns. We welcome people to attend this to support and demand for a public inquiry and the reform of a system that has clearly lost public trust.